The same as yesterday. This time yesterday, it was elimination time. That's right, it's elimination time again. We are live from Burbank, California to kick out a player from Group C. As harsh as that sounds, sad but true. One of these two players on the stage, Deer or viOLet, is going to be eliminated from the WCS Global Finals. Welcome back to the couch area. I am, of course, Sean Apollo Clark, or Sir Handsome sometimes. Over here to my left is Nate, Artosis, and Kev. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I had to, I mean, I've had such a bad job this last few days.
Sir Handsome, that means you're a knight. Did Roddy knight you or something?
Yes.
Being King Handsome himself?
Oh. Kev. Good to have you on the couch again, Kev.
Yeah, well, I mean, if nobody else wants to do it, I'm always here. So I feel like I'm more of a last resort. It's like, we need someone. It's like, Roddy, come over here. It's like, okay, guys, I'll talk about it.
He's claimed it. A big game time, obviously, whenever we have a player that's either going to be eliminated or move through to the next stage of the tournament, clearly a big game time. Deer and viOLet didn't have the best of starts, obviously, to the tournament, which is why they're here. Now they go up against each other, Artosis. Deer is a player that we've seen do well this year. Obviously, every player's kind of done well this year because that's why they're at the finals. But Deer specifically has continued to improve, getting closer to his former form from a couple of years ago. But he's in the elimination game.
Well, that's because Showtime really was on top of his PvP. He just looked fantastic. So I'm not really going to hold that against Deer here. But likewise with viOLet, that was probably the worst match that we've had so far in the tournament. But at the same time, it can look like that because Bjorn was just like, oh, look at this. I killed 50 Zerglings with this first thing I did in the entire game. And if that happens, it's going to look terrible, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that this is viOLet's just going to get crushed again. I think it should be closer than the Bjorn match at least, but I mean, Deer is...
But he's still going to get crushed.
He's...
I mean, it's okay. I think PvZ or ZVP, if we're looking at it from viOLet's point of view, that should be a lot more playable, you know, because Protoss, there's only so many things Protoss can do early on. There's no such thing as the first 7 adepts just killing everything. They may get a lot of damage done. So the game should be dragged out. I think it's a little bit easier for Zerg to maybe figure out what's going on. And also, we know viOLet as the wild card, as Jeff called him earlier today. I think you can catch Protoss off guard, especially if this Deer decides to play, I wouldn't say autopilot, but just like, I want to get my economy going. You know, I want to make sure I go strong into the mid game. Yeah. There's a good chance that viOLet, with some of his crazy tactics, whether it's Ling Bane, Ling Roach, Ling drop in the main, can get something going for himself. And I think it's very important. Like, whether he wins or loses the series, obviously viOLet really wants to win, but I think he's a massive underdog just because Deer lost the PvP. That doesn't change the fact that it's Deer. But it's very important that viOLet has a much better showing, because even though he went up against Bjorn, and Bjorn is an animal, that was still too one-sided. It's not supposed to be that one-sided at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, at that level, if he was to lose like he did versus Bjorn, it reaches the, you know, hard to say embarrassment level of leaving the tournament like that, right? So he needs to put up a good performance for himself. How are we expecting Deer to come into this series, though? We know, you know, similar to how viOLet perhaps may play, but Deer, on the other hand...
I think that Deer just needs to, like, cross all his T's and dot all his I's, make sure there's always something standing in his wall in. Make sure that he's always checking early on with an adept exactly what's coming, or Roach is coming early on. You know, there's a huge set of all-ins that viOLet can pull out here, like Roddy was saying. You know, like you can do Ravager rushes or Baneling all-ins, Ling drops. There's a lot of stuff like that. And if Deer can get beyond that, I mean, he's got a really fantastic late-game PvC. So I feel like he just needs to keep light pressure on and make sure he's not making any dumb mistakes early.
Anything else to add in here, Nate? I know it's not your area of expertise exactly, but
I do know how it feels to get wrecked at StarCraft sometimes, and I can say that this match, considering how this group has started for both players.
Thank God, in control's not up here right now.
Thank God he's not. If both players, for either of them, like Deer, he's been really good, but he's not been the most talked up guy here. All right, like this is a tournament where it's not just about him, you know, winning money and being good, but also getting the recognition that he deserves for how good he is. Going out here is a pretty disappointing run for him, just because we all know he could do a lot better than going out, you know, in his first 2 matches at BlizzCon opening week. And then similarly for viOLet, with how hard he got dumpstered by Bjorn, like if you go out 2-0 to Deer here, it's like, okay, maybe you came in as the underdog, but that's still not how you want to go out without even like grabbing a map.
Yeah,
so
it definitely is embarrassing. To be fair, he'll go home with $10,000, and he made it to BlizzCon, unlike every other player besides the other 15. But Yeah, no, I know what you
I
mean.
still think it puts a weird pressure on this match because whichever one of these guys gets knocked out like this, and you consider that you look how good Deer is, he loses to the non-Korean, and Violet just getting wrecked that hard. It's tough.
There is a good chance, though, that Violet has barely practiced against Terran. He probably looked at Beyond and be like, you know, I can either waste 20, 30, 40, 50 hours getting ready for this guy, and to put quote Nate over here, or put it in Nate's words, still get dumpstered because Beyond is just an animal. But the two other players in my group are Protoss. Most of the people in this tournament are Protoss. Wouldn't it just make so much more sense for Violet to put much more of an emphasis on getting good in ZVP than it is getting good in ZVT? Because let's be honest, it doesn't really matter for most people how much they prepare against Terran. When the two best Terrans in the world are sitting in this building, you probably just want to, you know, like cross your fingers and hope you don't run into them when it truly matters.
Let them be on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
let them play
let
TVT.
Zest deal with that. Okay, like,
Yeah, exactly. So there is a good chance that Violet should be a lot better in this matchup. And I think the one thing where Violet is very dangerous, it's not necessarily the silly early all-ins, because I think that Deer is too good. But often as a Protoss, you think of the game as in waves, right? Like this is the early all-in, and then there is like the big tier 2 attacks. But Violet often does like the in-between stuff, where an attack doesn't make too much sense. But actually, Protoss is getting ready for the next phase in the game, so suddenly those 5-6 Banes can catch you off guard. And it's not supposed to kill you, but if you lose 12, 14 workers as a Protoss, things get very gnarly very early on. So I think Violet should be more dangerous in this matchup, and he should be a lot better prepared.
Well said there, Kev. Artosis,
yes.
If I mean, thinking from Dia's side now, going into this game, I know you talked about kind of what he needs to do exactly, but are you worried at all against Violet? I know that what Kev said is actually a very good point here. Is this something that he could also be thinking himself?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you are going to get caught off guard. If Violet wants to play a completely standard macro ZVP, I think Deer would be like, yes, okay, let's do that handshake. We'll play that game, and Deer is going to feel pretty confident that he's going to be able to take that down. But I think that that's specifically what he's going to be looking for. Of course, with your early Adept or whatever, Mothership Core, try to check if something crazy's coming. You know, some maps have really good early rushes like Galactic Processor Frost. You can do some crazy early all-ins, but other than that, it's going to be some of these weird ones where it's like, Violet knows probably right now you're like halfway done blink or charge or something, and now I can hit you and get you. So that's going to be where Deer really has to have his guard up.
All right, so we do have a couple of issues with the players, so we do have a couple of extra minutes on our side here, Nate. Let's go into last thoughts perhaps and predictions, and then we'll be able to move forward.
Well, just based on the performance shown, like Deer lost to Showtime, but the games look still really good. I think he still showed that he can go toe-to-toe with Showtime, and obviously we know that Showtime is really good. We expect him to be one of the players that could upset in this group as far as the non-Koreans go. So I would favor Deer in this matchup just based off of everything that we've seen already. Probably 2-0.
Okay. Tosis?
You know, I do want to mention that Violet has done very well on the Korean GM ladder. He's gotten quite high on it, and you know, he is a good player. I think that we're super overlooking him because we have like some ridiculous Koreans, then we have the foreigner story, and Violet's just kind of lost in that. So I do think Deer's going to win, but I think Violet will put up a much better show, obviously, than against Beyond. It would be hard to do otherwise. He could literally 12-pull both games and it'll look better. But I think that he even definitely could take a game here.
Okay, and Kev, final thoughts and prediction?
Yeah, I still think it's going to be 2-0 for Deer, because I think that Deer obviously knows what he has to worry about. And like Dan said, when it comes to a macro game, I think he is going to be incredibly solid. And I just cannot imagine with your tournament live on the line, we shouldn't forget it. I mean, Deer was the hottest player pretty much at the end of 2013. And 2016, he's been good, still waiting for that real peak performance. Could very well be here. I think he's going to be very, very on top of his game. And I think he'll take it 2-0, but I do think Violet is going to look better this series than he did against Beyond.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll be hearing more from these two, three even, in the post-game for the analysis. We're going to go to a very short break, and when we return, it is elimination time.
reviews are in, and the critics agree. Overwatch is a perfect 10.
Psst, what are you looking at?
It's time to pick a side.
Overwatch. Play it now on PC and console. Rated T for teen.
The StarCraft II WCS Global Finals is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
And we are back. Welcome back, guys. Day 2 of WCS BlizzCon Championship going on right now. And I got to say, we've had a good day. I think perhaps the best game of the 2 days so far, Nurchio versus TY in the Game 3. Do you agree, Todd?
Yeah.
This is Todd, by the way.
In terms of stories and results, everything was good. But in terms of like actual gameplay, seeing some longer games, I'm very happy. We saw some ghosts in action and some late game Terran versus Zerg. And Terran winning actually in the late game is fairly rare, to be honest.
I think of Artosis talking about it. He's one of the few Terrans that's willing to be like, you know what? You want to go in the mega late game? Let's do it. And there's just so many crazy things that can happen there. The Fungals and the Banelings, I felt like Nurchio fought his heart out to make that look as hard as it could possibly be. But let's get into this match here and talk about this, because this is an important one too. There's so much hype going on, guys. I hope you've been enjoying yourselves and having a good time, because someone that might not be having a good time right now is viOLet. Well, I'm just going to do it. It was really bad, his first showing. I mean, he got absolutely murdered like we haven't seen since last BlizzCon, when Lilbo had an equally disappointing showing. But viOLet, I think you have kind of different expectations for. You're like, yeah, okay, you're the wild card, but you're supposed to do some crazy stuff and throw people off. He kind of showed up, didn't really get his. I mean, he tried it an all-in. He tried to drop it on a map that's very predictable. And now he faces Deer, who also had a. It's surprising to see him here a little bit for I think a lot of people.
Yeah, he has a much better shot, though, I would say, at surprising somebody like Deer than TY. So not just because of the opponent he's facing, but also matchup-wise against Protoss. Definitely, I think, going to have a better chance to do something crazy that could surprise than, I mean, that Zergling Queen attack that he did, where I think Bjorn was almost always going to have enough. So we'll see here what style he chooses to play. Yeah. And I can't wait. Like, out of this guy, you can expect almost anything. Really made his mark on the scene by being one of his trademarks was always that he was very aggressive.
Yes.
Which for Zerg, like, you might be like, okay, what Zerg is not aggressive? Well, actually, there were quite a few in the past that just like kind of sat back. Broodlord Infested at the time, and
there was definitely that.
Played a little bit slower. For example,
Swarmos
guys like,
too. Swarmos period for sure.
Yeah, I think that nowadays everybody's learned to be fairly aggressive, but there is still Zergs, like for example, Serral, right? That's like to go to the late game. They're very good on hive tech. So, as I say that, like even as of late, he's been playing pretty aggressive himself, but viOLet was one of those first guys that basically said, I'm never going to stop attacking if I can, and I'll have success this way. And it worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah, I agree, Todd. So we are having a little bit more technical difficulties, but that just gives us more time to talk to you guys, which always gets me excited. The other thing I kind of want to note, too, is this matchup's a bit of a definitive matchup. We did not see the best Deer, per se. He ran up against a Showtime that I think for a lot of people tuning into BlizzCon are a little bit surprised by that, but I think a lot of the hardcore fans who have been watching Showtime throughout the year maybe a little bit less predictable, but it's nice to see that performance here at this stage. Yeah. That being said, Deer has his own fans too, and Deer has the pride of Korea behind him, where they're like, hey, hang on here. Whoa. Am I one best of 3 away from being eliminated? Okay, well, who's standing between me? It's viOLet. Now, viOLet, 2013, 2014, I think is a very scary beast. He went out there, he took WCS by storm and was doing some really good stuff there. But I do have to make a note. I mean, a lot of that was against a lot of foreign players that were not playing particularly super amazing as compared to the Koreans back then. Now, Deer is in that hardcore Korean scene. They're not going out to DreamHacks. They're not going out to IEMs. They are his 65% PVZ win rate, as we saw in the ticker down there. That's against the other best Zergs on planet Earth. viOLet, not as much. There's been a lot more kind of foreigner interaction with him. Now, he is practicing a lot in Korea, as Artosis pointed out as well. But man, I say definitive because viOLet does not want to get embarrassed, and Deer would be embarrassed. Just it doesn't even matter how the games go. If he went 0-2, that would be embarrassing to him.
Absolutely, yeah. It's funny you mentioned that like some people must have been surprised by Showtime's victory. Like anybody that watched the WCS Signature Series on Showtime, and by the way, those videos are fantastic. I don't think we'll be too surprised. Like you can tell like how dedicated he
Sure.
is. He's got his entire family behind him, like a supporting father that knows a lot about the game, according to Apollo as well. So it's definitely pretty cool to see that. You know, the usual story is that, you know, the parents were like kind of against it, kind of still are. They're like, yeah, I wish he would study and be a doctor or something. But
It's kind of
guess
cool.
what?
It's like it's also the progression of esports, though. I think
Yeah.
we're seeing more stories of parents who are like more understanding. Like, because Showtime's also quite young, guys. Isn't he like 21 or 2 or something like that?
he's fairly young, yeah.
Somewhere down in the low 20s. He can eat a whole pizza, guys. That's how I measure age. So he's quite young, and his parents are very supportive. And gaming's been out for a little while. He talked about his success in EPS, which is a German league. Very specifically, you can enter into it, but you have to have some kind of residency in Germany. And he's always been kind of supported by the ecosystem, by his parents, by his family. And it's nice to see that product turn out results. A lot of Koreans have similar stories, but not all of them, by the way. It's actually still kind of looked at there. But here's the results so far from the group. We can see Nurchio narrowly losing to TY. And if you have the ability, guys, and you didn't see that match, go back and watch that match. Solar, I would say not narrowly losing to Elaser, by the way. That series, it could have been Elaser 2-0. It could have been 3-0 in a best of 3, which is silly to say, but just all 3 games. Yeah, don't mind the pictures. Not sure what's happening there, but it's okay. But viOLet versus Deer, this is an elimination match. And then shortly after this, shockingly, Solar versus Nurchio is an elimination match. Either an SSL champion or Nurchio, probably top 2, if not top 3, is going to be out of this thing. And they're going to go 0-2.
Home.
That's amazing. I mean, they'll have $10,000 to pad themselves, so they'll feel okay. But Solar and Nurchio are legitimate threats to not, you know, maybe say win this tournament's a bit of a stretch, but top 5, top 6 up there. And that's, you know, $50,000 range. It's a little bit different.
Elaser definitely upset the balance of StarCraft 2 competitive matches there with that last victory. That was pretty amazing to see. And now viOLet gets a chance at Deer here to try and advance on to the decider match.
And they're trying to figure out what's going on with him, so he's just having a little bit of problems there. viOLet, in between his first series and this one, it's an important update, was able to crack open a monster and chug that delicious liquid down. Could make the difference. Of course, if he loses, we take no responsibility. But if he wins, we take all of it.
Did you pick one guy to win it all before the tournament started?
Not really. We didn't do the prediction thing. I think we were
I
trying
mean,
to
like even like off
in my head.
Off air.
I mean, I think you have to like the favorites. Like literally, if you would have asked me before, it would have been like a Beyond or TY, and then a Dark, kind of the really boring predictions. After having watched these games, I'm not as confident at all about Dark in particular, which is weird to say because he won, but he just didn't win in such flat. Like the way Beyond won has me being like, yeah, okay, this guy's top 3. He's a monster. He's actually going to probably. There's a good chance he embarrasses Showtime. All the hype we're giving, we're like, Showtime's so amazing. And then they step into that match, and 9 minutes later, we're like, Showtime, you can do it in the decider match. You know, like, Beyond's of that caliber. So for right now, I would tell you Beyond. But that would be a cheater pick, because before the tournament, I don't know if I would have been that confident. Okay, and if you guys missed that Showtime versus Deer, we're going to take a little bit of a look at that as we sit here and wait for them to fix these issues. Don't go to sleep, Deer. You stay awake.
He's trying to. Doing his best here.
Yeah. There was some pretty amazing hits in here, Todd.
Yeah, usually like when you're on the high ground, you're going to have some kind of advantage defending against this. And I think that's part of the reason of why Showtime took that middle base on Sejong. But somehow Dio was able to break that position, and then Showtime stayed patient, pulled back.
Okay.
The second coming of Hazo, that was some
when they
fast
say
highlights.
B-roll, they mean 4 seconds of it. Todd, you better get it out, bud.
Yeah, that was fast. Yeah, but so I mean, going back to that Sejong game, I really think that it was cool how Showtime stayed calm, just pulled back, and it was really Dia that I think also overextended. You know, like we don't want to be overly critical. We don't only want to point out the mistakes, but I really think that he went a little bit crazy. I don't know what he was thinking exactly. Like he couldn't reinforce that close to it. I don't think he had the prism. He kind of ran in there, lost everything, which
Todd,
you don't see at this level usually, right?
I've been uncomfortable because I did a couple of the other BlizzCons, and at both of those I've been like, man, if Lil Bo can just get a couple of advantages here, it's going to be so cool to see a foreigner. And then it's just like, we're so wrong. All the hype we did was just so wrong. But this tournament, we're like, man, Deer overextending. Deer, all inning at this point in time, which is kind of weird. Solar, I don't know if you watched that ZVZ, but really weird to push the queens across.
There we go again.
Yeah, we're back here to this fight. and it's Deer, like, you know, so in Disruptor Wars, by the way, it's a little bit misleading because both people are gonna take hits. Like, it's always funny because it's such a massive hit that I feel like fans are like, oh, what a huge mistake. Not really. It's gonna happen.
I don't know what Deer thought. Like, obviously, he doesn't realize he's behind in army, but he can't reinforce that close to the fight. So he just like kind of stepped down there and lost everything. Yeah.
And it's weird. How many times do you see a Korean on like 4 bases or 5, all, you know, pretty healthy mining, be the loser? Like, usually it gets weird. There's an all-in or something happens.
More in this tournament, I guess.
I know. This tournament, it's not that weird. But here's Showtime again, kind of outplaying it. Man, we're gonna send Deer off with a highlight reel of his mistakes. I love it.
I hope he doesn't turn
This
around
is
and
really
take a
cool,
look.
by the way. He picks up the 2 Adepts, gets a couple of Photon Overcharges, and then I guess it's not pictured, but he goes in the main and actually triggers the rest of the Photon Overcharges and kills a couple more probes. It's absolutely incredible.
And Deer was playing super aggressive actually this series. Like, you know, Disruptor Stalker against Disruptor Stalker, you don't even really have to commit unless you're terrible at using Tempest, and that might also be why you overextended. You really didn't want to play Tempest versus Tempest. He's like, all right, not another one of those games.
Well, he was
got in there
behind too. He
furiously,
didn't even
but
have Stargates. So he's like, it's not going to be Tempest versus Tempest. It's going to be Tempest versus my Stalkers, which I guess he thought would just lose him.
the funny thing is that he already had one Tempest because he already had one Stargate, sorry, because he was going for Oracle.
You're
so
right, you're right.
He very easily could have transitioned into it, but I don't know, maybe he's been losing a lot in practice with Tempest, and he saw some old Hazuob's games, and he was like, all right, these Germans, they know to defend way too good.
How weird is it, Todd, where like these Koreans don't want it to get to the late game against these foreigners, otherwise they're in trouble. That's like
It's
the
2016.
opposite of what we've ever talked about.
Yeah,
It's like
I really feel like actually for a lot of these games, if you blurred out the nicknames and you just show the game, people will have it upside down. They would think that the defending players, the Korean.
But it's cool. You know, that's what we wanted. We wanted a more healthy scene outside of Korea where they could compete with the Koreans, because we've had StarCraft dominated by these legends for just years, and it looks like Violet's just moments away from playing this match here.
Does he?
That's sarcasm. He's not close at all. There's guys crawling beneath the desk and doing stuff down there.
If I already don't get your sarcasm, I don't even want to imagine when I'm going to be casting with Total Biscuit, potentially it's going to be like, what?
It's dry.
Serious?
It's dry. You can tell when
it
he's
takes some
joking,
getting used to, right?
It does take some getting used to, but he'll stop talking when he's delivered a joke. It's very dry, but he'll stop talking. So that's going to be, that's like some amazing advice, by the way. You'll pick up on it. He'll say something funny. He won't smile.
Isn't he like he's always sarcastic anyway? Pretty
Mostly,
much?
yeah. That's why we get along so well. We're excited, guys. Beyond, this is day 2. We're going to have some really exciting days 3 and 4 where more eliminations are going to come up. We're going to play those winter matches. We're going to wrap up the round of 16. It's going to be awesome. But BlizzCon is right around the corner. And here is Violet dying horrifically.
Here's the
this is a
King
great
Sejong Station
That's the funny
Chainsaw
thing.
Massacre.
You know what I'm realizing? It's B-roll, but it's the B-roll for the loser match, so I'm like, man, this is kind of mean, but both these guys lost, so all the highlights are them getting just butchered. It's like, wow. Violet's got to play better than this, guys. Let's take a look. Here's him getting
much better
down.
than this as well, because this was very one-sided.
Here's where the ground is, guys. We know that he can play this bad. Let's see if he can do better. And in here is a terrible all-in.
Oh, God. That's really mean.
Yeah, he
They
kills
should have
like
stopped
3
after game
Marines here.
1.
Get ready for it. As he slowly drops the choke, but there's already enough army to just destroy him.
Actually, he waited until Steam Pack was there as well, which was, I mean, Violet didn't get in there maybe furiously enough, but...
And here's him
wouldn't
trying to
have mattered.
retreat, but even that doesn't work, folks. You could do like the what's that, like the Benny music or whatever, like...
Benny Hill?
Yeah. And here's him having just no defense whatsoever as he gets destroyed. Like... Right now, you know, like someone from Blizzard's back there like texting like, Jeff, sell
Get
them
him off the
positively. It's like, I can't. There's nothing to talk about. But I mean, to be honest, to talk about what that was, you know, guys, that's what we're describing. That's the low point for both these players, and they're both proud players. Like it's kind of funny talking about Violet being perhaps the underdog of the top 16.
He
It
banned
is
Frozen
BlizzCon.
Temple, by the way.
What's that?
He banned Frozen Temple here, did Violet.
Nice.
Whereas
Totally.
Deer banned Apotheosis, obviously Galactic Process also. So New Gettysburg, Frost, and King Sejong Station gonna be our 3 maps between these two.
Sure.
Do you have a favorite?
I mean,
Out of these
like
maps?
everybody else, it's like Frost and Frozen Temple. Those are the 2 most kind of standard maps, I would say. But it's cool seeing King Sejong Station here as well. It's one map you want to limit against Terran, but in a ZVP, not that big of a deal. It's not super scary one way or the other.
By all means, viOLet is not like a super crazy cheeser, right? So
It can be.
yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. Yeah, he can be, and he's also known as an aggressive player. So I'm a little bit surprised that he would remove Dasan Station. Frozen Temple is like the map where it's very hard to surprise someone. You have to play fairly standard, even though there is like a kind of like a short rush distance. It's one of the most played maps as well, so you can always expect
That's what he's doing, I think.
guys like Deer to be really good on it.
Yeah, the wild card took out the most standard map. I think that makes a lot of sense for me. He wants it to get weird. And he's going to need it to get a little bit weird because there we can see Deer sizing up his opponent. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get into this game.
We've
Super
got about
excited.
we got about a little bit still.
We are
Hopefully
within an hour of this match starting. If you have pizza bagel bites or anything like that, a T-Mobile phone call to make. What are the other sponsors?
Oh,
It's not bagel bites, by
you're
the
way
way.
too good at this, by the way.
I've been trained for a long time. I wanted to say in the video, but I'm not sure. Anyways, joking aside, guys, we're just
Next time.
next tell.
Next
No.
time, next time.
Next time, yeah. It's like no, it's
They'll use
T-Mobile.
you.
All right. I actually see that the game has started, so we are going to be in this in just a moment. And it is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss between these two gallant, handsome devils, both out of Korea. viOLet, excuse me, let me remove the N from that, versus Deer. And introducing the players, lower left-hand side on New Gettysburg, the Red Zerg, it is viOLet.
Playing for Team Envious.
Team NBS, a great organization across a lot of games. They've got a lot of players here at BlizzCon hoping to do well. viOLet, the sole StarCraft 2 guy. And the lower right-hand side, not a stranger to BlizzCon success. It is the Protoss, Deer.
With a top 8 in 2013. That was a long time ago since
It
then.
was a long
Hasn't been
time.
able to make it back just yet, but now he's back and he's going to face this beast here in viOLet.
This
who
has me
didn't-
excited.
Yeah, he just... I mean, viOLet, it can't be worse than his first match. Like, he has to be
Exactly.
better, obviously. And
That's what Artosa said. He said if there's two 12 pools, this will be better than the first series. Well, we're halfway there.
considering the Artos is cursed, we're definitely going to get good games then.
What did the drone do? It is actually a Nexus first, by the way. So of builds you're hoping to face when you 12 pool, this is it. This is it to varying degrees. Now, one of the things Deer can do, he's going to probe scout. If he can see the Lings coming, this is going to be a very close timing, Todd. If he can see them coming, he can actually pull back and drop a pylon. And on this narrowed space like that,
Yeah.
it actually buys you a lot of time. Quite a bit of time.
Is he going to react on time, though? That's the big question.
Yeah, that's the
Lynx,
question.
I don't think they will go around it. They will try to go past it. Does he turn around? Oh, he tries to, but not going to
Good
be
luck building with those
able
right there.
to.
Like, no, tell the Protoss.
Why
Now,
isn't my
looking at
probe
the-
Usain Bolt?
And there's no pylon here, so everything we just talked about. He can cut off
Yeah,
reinforcements.
this
That's
is
nice.
really bad. Like, for Deer to defend this, he's going to have to pull a lot of probes. I guess he's going to have to Chrome Boost out one Zealot, but that pylon's going to be on the siege, so the probes basically need to defend the pylon.
Look at the Lings, though, getting mixed up in the middle of the map. I mean, that pylon block is actually really cool. But he does get the surround on the pylon. And the probes are just trying to buy time. They don't want to actually die here.
Yeah, Zealot is not nearing completion here.
No, not really. And more probes are actually going to die. Good micro here from viOLet so far. And this is that wild card stuff we were talking about. Really disrupting Deer. The probes not only just not mining, but actually dying here. One more gets picked on his
viOLet
back.
was most certainly counting on a Nexus first here to be used, and
Yes.
so far he's putting in some good work. 7 probes have already died.
Pylon dying mid-map as well, so reinforcements will come in here. Another Zealot not
think-
queued up.
He must have made another one, because I still saw Lynx attacking something in the middle of the map, but
Maybe the probe. Maybe the probe itself. Actually mining gas here as well. You got to forget about that pipe dream, friend. Another probe looking to die, and it does. Again, pretty good micro from viOLet. Well, as I say that, of course, he loses 2 Lings. Going to make his way to the natural again, where just a couple more Lings are there. Behind this, if you look at the production tab, viOLet's making drones, so it's not going to be a mega super all-in. And there is the chart to show us just he is enjoying a little bit more riches as he picks off even more
Yeah.
probes, Todd.
gets some more 22 drones, 26 drones to 14 probes now, and viOLet is going to have his second expansion up in a second. Deer somehow managed to squeeze in Cybernetics core, so he's at least getting Mothership core to get the defense. He could get an Adept as well to really help with these links, but behind this, I'm pretty sure that viOLet realized the economic damage that is dealt there, and it's going to be drone, like as much as he loves to attack, it's time to drone up, get super far ahead economically, and then make units to finish the game with.
Yep. And this is the just dire straits. Like, the 2 Zealots are good. There's nothing for them to do back at home, so they're going to go out and try to do something. But by the time they show up, it's going to be like 2 or 3 queens, and if there's any Zerglings, cool. That's you know, flourish on top of that already gorgeous whatever you'd put flourish on there. Very eloquent.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Flourish is a big word.
Wildgates is now on the way. We've got an adept, no tech yet, but I mean, Deer it's gonna feel like he's very broke for a long time because of the amount of probes that he lost. Whereas viOLet, he can just safely drone up, just get a bunch of links and queens to defend against whatever could be thrown at him early on, and he's gonna be fine.
He's gonna go see that there is a third. I mean, it would take the Zealots forever, so it's more like just a scouting thing. I think what he's hoping to have happen here is like, hey, make like 26 Zerglings, you need them, and it doesn't look like viOLet's falling for the trap. He's, well, actually, as I said, he like literally did make 26 Zerglings, but I think he's actually thinking about attacking. Speed's about to finish. He's got a Baneling Nest. I think he just wants to keep up the pressure.
And Deer behind this is gonna take so late or get any kind of, you know, Stargate or anything else very, very late because, oh, actually that's Sedep's taking a lot of damage. Might have to overcharge. No, he brings the Zealots and replace that nice micro here.
Yeah. You know what's actually kind of cool about this? I don't know that viOLet's going to go hardcore about it, but with that Baneling Nest finishing and speed, because he recalled back, he doesn't actually have that much energy for a defense. So popping that opening, that line, oh man, well, if you're going to make a third Nexus, you're just, this is really the opposite of what you want to have happening going on right now if you're a Deer fan, or Deer.
Yeah, Baneling's gonna be morphed. There's gonna be a lot of them. We already saw a lot of Banelings versus Protoss, but now it feels like it's a little bit different. It's just pretty much because of all the aggression that we saw earlier. And who gets sentries anymore, really? As I say that, Deer somehow senses
but they're
this
going
could
in
be
the
coming.
main!
Yeah, well, why
Oh no, there's an Overlord that baited him inside. It's the wrong call. He pulls back a little bit, but what good is that? Does get another sentry in there, but the pylon pops. Now there's a hole. The probes are dying. One pylon is going to power all the production. If he wants to try and kill that, he could. But with the force of the ramp, actually a little bit of a hold coming out here. 4 now, Todd. 17 probes have died.
This feels like a typical old-school viOLet game, by the way.
Yes.
Lynx and Banes getting into the second base of a Protoss, blowing everything up.
He's super happy with how this game's gone. He's like, oh, I'm very comfortable with the idea of us just doing Lings and Banelings against a Protoss that's starving right now. 28 probes have died.
The third base gets found now by Zerglings. They're gonna kill that pylon and start doing a lot of damage to it. Deer has 0 tech, by the way. He started mining from his gases again after a very, very long time. So it's not like he could have started like some sort of Stargate or even a Twilight Council. Like he needed to get one more gate to wall off, and then the Robo. He's not even on 3 gates. He's on 2 gates total.
So here's what I'm going to do. Here's the one speckle of sunshine I'm going to give us. There is no tech for viOLet. Just now, the lair is being started. Now, that lair is being started as he's taking a 4th. I'm not going to try and sell this, guys. I'm not. If Deer comes back from this, it'll be one of the coolest things we've ever seen because it's a deep comeback.
I thought you were going to say you would hit a shoe or something.
No, I can't make those promises because right now, with how bad these Korean players are playing, no, I'm just kidding. Obviously not. But I think it would be a deep comeback.
Yeah. I really like the way viOLet is playing this, like from his advantage. You know, a lot of less experienced players might be throwing it, but he made Pneumatized Carapace, and since he already has an Evo, he's going to be able to morph a bunch of Overlords and start dropping Banelings and Zerglings all over the place, which is perfect against a Protoss who's only on, like, what is it? 2 Zealots and 3 sentries?
Yeah, you're not wrong, Todd, as that harass does come in here. He's using that to maybe win some freedom for his Zerglings over here at the 3rd, but with the Photon Overcharge, he will be chased off. Drop comes in on top
the
of
main
the
as well at the same time. It's very hard to be looking everywhere. There is one in the main that's about to happen.
Natural. All kinds of miscues going. He's actually spreading out a lot of the workers there to maybe try to save their lives from Banelings, but it's not enough.
It might feel like you need to be looking everywhere right now, but the only place you need to be looking is at the left-hand side of your screen where 21 probes have already died.
And doubled in supply. viOLet is just enjoying this advantage. Every choice he makes right now, it feels like the right one. It's, you know, he's like, I'm going to try a triple drop and kind of run some Lings around. And it's just brilliant because there's just not enough Protoss anywhere else.
This is almost like the moment where like viOLet is thinking like, is he still in the game?
Still here?
I'll go Ultras to punish him.
A little bit of miscue there, but as you said, Todd, you can't be everywhere at once. There is the Spire. Now, I love this call because he sees the Robo and he sees a very low econ Protoss. You're not going to be able to make reactive units to deal with that Spire. Not anytime. If he lives to it, by the way.
Deer is trying to survive here in this game. GG gets called out, and viOLet wins map number 1 here with a lot of aggression.
And that's got to feel good. As you said earlier, Todd, as well, I like this point. You said he goes for a 12 pool, predicting or knowing or at least hoping that it's against the Nexus first. That's exactly what he gets. Now, one of the big words for this BlizzCon we've been using a lot is confidence. viOLet might have had his confidence rocked from that first series, but with this game number 1, all of a sudden he's one game away from eliminating Deer and making a comeback here, you know, like giving himself a chance. He's not going to, there's a very little chance he's going to face Beyond ever again, at least in this group. So if he can get past Deer, all of a sudden viOLet could perhaps salvage his tournament.
Dear, this has to feel like a terrible day for him so far.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Everything's going wrong, and in that one game, it was no different. And the fact that this happened in game number 1 as well sets the pace for the rest of the series. I mean, we're going to be playing on Frost next. It's another one of those maps where everybody likes to get a Nexus pretty early, not necessarily even as first, but you have to wonder against somebody like a viOLet. Can he open with link speed? Is he going to want to drop links in my main? So he's already put Deer on the defensive.
You know what's funny about the Todd? I 100% agree with you, and typically I'm the guy that kind of makes that point, but every single time I do, one of the cool things about Koreans, but also maybe dangerous about them, is I'm guessing he just does Nexus first, by the way. 100%. He's just like, nope, I'm gonna win or die by Nexus first. Or they just play with a lot of fearlessness. They're like, yep, that should mess me up, but in this best of 3, this is my plan and I'm sticking to it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the time he one gate expands or does something safer. But it's just such a poker game. That's what's so fun and beautiful about StarCraft, is that in a short best of 3 like this, you have to make reads off your opponent that you're not sure about.
Yeah.
And if I'm in Deer's position, I'm like, all right, listen, I'm going to do a 4-gate 1-base opening, get 19 sentries, and take my natural.
One of the upside of StarCraft is that you can't lose all your money, though. You can only win pretty much.
Yeah.
But you'll win less if you lose, though. So,
yeah. So, viOLet, nice game 1, but that is just game 1. You've got at least 1 more to go, maybe 2. You want to make it past Deer. Deer, on the other hand, talking about him, there is a little bit of a write-off you can do there. He goes Nexus first, gets 12 pooled. I mean, if he's able to stave that off and win from there, that's actually more incredible for him than anything else. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and introduce these players. viOLet versus Deer. Let's get on the map Frost. It is going to be split on the lower left-hand side. Cheesing out in a win, maybe, in that first one. It is viOLet.
He did just what he needed to do, man.
What's that?
He did just what he needed to do.
That's right. Do what it takes to win. His opponent in the top right-hand side, needing your support right now. It is Deer.
With a pylon down the ramp here so far, it's going to be a gateway with it. We don't really see Forge anymore.
So this is the safer version. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the safer version where you don't open with a very quick Nexus and then gateway elsewhere. You just get that gateway down there. You can wall off against pretty much anything that's going to be thrown your way. We'll see when he scouts. Actually, no, he's already scouting.
Yeah, he's already scouting. And it literally is a 1-gate expand.
And guess
it's
what?
just the opposite of whatever I say it's going to be.
Guess what viOLet went for? The opposite of an early pull. He went for a hatch first, and
he's going to play it safe, though. It'll be gas, so not 3 hatch. It
You
was all
don't
the
have
rage
to,
and Heart of
though.
the Swarm.
You don't have to go double hatch before pull. Like, it's still very economic, obviously, what he's doing here, I think. Question is he going to want to link drop and stay very aggressive against a Deer that's already, you know, being pushed very far and attacked into?
Yeah, there's a few options. You're kind of laying them out there. Lane drop has become pretty prevalent. But even just good old-fashioned speedlings on Frost, that is a fairly large wall-in that we're being seen here at the natural. And what's really key for Protoss is taking that fast third. So if he tries to take too fast of a third, and there's a bunch of lings out there, that can be a problem too.
I wonder if viOLet likes cross-map, by the way, because like most Zergs, they'd be happy, kind of, with cross-map. You know, they can't get attacked into very fast. But viOLet likes to play so aggressive and not necessarily as much late game as others that he's actually going to be the one that wants to be aggressive and takes a long time to go across the map. So
no, Todd, I think that's a great point. You know, getting inside the head of viOLet, I would have to say he wants it close so that it can be that aggressive game. It still can, of course, but when there's this much space between the two of you, it's a lot easier for Protoss.
He can adjust, I'm sure. Like maybe get something like mid-game Mutas to fly around between the bases and stuff.
Still mining that gas while having speed on the way. That oftentimes tells me, I can't imagine it's Banelings, but something like you were saying, Todd. Maybe a drop. We didn't need an Evo chamber for that.
Yeah. Maybe to just get pneumatized carapace, fly in there, make sure he knows what he's up against. I mean, he's facing a Deer who lost game number 1, who's going for a very quick Twilight, so it could be most likely resonating glaive, sometimes a Dark Shrine, and there it is.
You called it. God, you're so smart, Todd.
Sometimes
you know your stuff. You know your stuff. But good scout coming out from Deer here as well. He is going to confirm that it is that third hatch. He was reasonably sure when the links show up there to clear it away. He himself, by the way, not going to take too much of a risk, at least so far. Well, I saw that probe heading over towards that pylon. Additional gateways, maybe it's going to be, I mean, we've been seeing this a lot, especially at BlizzCon, it's kind of been the theme. But going for 4 Dark Templar with a Warp Prism and using that to really buy time to either take a faster third or to power up for an all-in. But there is no Dark Shrine. There is no Robo, so perhaps not going that route. Maybe just going for the good old-fashioned strong Adept play to secure that third.
If you get a good bunch of these guys, you send them across the map and you start sniping drones, that's when the roles are reversed from last game. You're the one ahead economically, you can just keep on expanding while using some more units to weaken your opponent's economy, and then you're in a great position. But viOLet, especially on cross map, I really like that he went for Pneumatized Carapace, because he's gonna get the perfect scouts, he's gonna see there is no Dark Shrine, he's gonna see there is exactly 3 gates plus Resonating Glaive, so all he has to do from there is get the exact right amounts of Zerglings or Roaches to make sure he can defend against this. And look, the Baneling Nest already starts, so he's gonna be playing that Zergling Baneling style.
Yeah, he does it a little bit...
He can sell the Roach Rhine as well too for this.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost, it feels a little panicky, but of course we don't necessarily know that yet. Well, I mean, there's a Spine Crawler.
Look at the amount of Adepts. It's a lot of them already headed across the map. And I think viOLet might have kind of missed that. I think he knows they're headed across the map, so that's why he panics, get a Spine Crawler. Because the Baneling Nest takes a long time to get.
Okay, fair point.
You don't get it on time.
And that Spine Crawler is going to be first targeted here. There's just a lot of Adepts here really quick, and the Queen itself does go down. Nice angle on those Adepts. They can even just cancel, kill the Spine Crawler. Exactly what they do. And they're getting some nice damage in here, delaying the productivity of the Surge, getting some outright kills. He's going to try to shade away, because there is enough Lings here to get that surround and perhaps clean him up.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are going to get away though. So that was pretty good here for the 1 Queen, 2 drones. He got a Spine that didn't get cancelled, and he might be able to get away with some of them.
I love that he tucked himself in this corner, just reducing the surface area available to those Lings. That's the way they would kill him. 3 Adepts are going to try to shade away, and it looks like they should be able to get away. But this, you can see on the minimap, the real strength of that opening is securing a third for the Protoss. If the third can go up in reasonable time, and the Zerg doesn't slow it down and just has their own third up and going, that's really advantageous for the Protoss.
And he already has Resonating Glaives, which is always going to be a massive threat here, no matter what. Like, at any point, could a Warp Prism drop a couple of Adepts? Guess what? He's getting a Warp Prism just to make sure he can keep up with the aggression. Behind this, an Immortal is queued.
Okay, now I did like something we saw here. We see some Zerglings going towards some Overlords. They do have drop. 4 Banelings going to be loaded per Todd. You had talked about this earlier, the Baneling drop. Very common in the meta right now, and one of the best ways to make sure it has some success is doing multiple at the same time. If you do just one, yeah, the Protoss can mess up. Will Deer mess up? Probably not. But if you do 2 at the same time, it really only takes 1 being successful to do massive damage.
If you can time it very, very well, usually this kind of stuff is super deadly. But, well, actually, if Deer is looking at these Adepts, he might start losing a lot of probes. Let's look at that number on the left-hand side here of our screen. As probes are going to start dying all over the place. Stalkers are in the main position to receive that Overlord, but he kind of flies past right now.
You know, he queued that up too, and then the other drop gets picked up as well. A couple of Banelings make the waddle out there, but they're not going to find super amazing targets, I would imagine. Actually, 1 dying before. A good split by Deer. This is the Deer we expected. All of a sudden, he deflects both drops perfectly well. viOLet takes some damage on his half the map, and guess what? It's viOLet that's down 20 supply behind by 10 workers and even army. I mean, it's just in one little moment of time there, Deer with the defense, viOLet with the bad defense, and it's Deer right now.
In control. Deer lost 1 single probe this game somehow against multiple Baneling drops. He's playing really, really good. And the fact that it's already happened once, you know it's going to happen again for sure. So from now, he can be extra careful, look at his minimap all the time, and anytime he sees something that's red, he can just look immediately, make sure he defends. And if he keeps up with this, he's just going to get a massive army and then I think hit the timing and try and end it.
Well, if you can't do it by air, you're going to try to do it by ground. Here they come. They're going to waddle in their Deer on top of that as well. Some Lings will run in here to make sure some pain is felt for our Protoss player. Chase this back a little bit, but Deer just comes back home as long as there's a good force field, and there is. So again, a couple more probes will die. And viOLet is able to assert himself over the top here, but this is where it gets a little bit weird for viOLet. You can see he's just now getting Roach speed, Baneling speed, a drop inside the main sure.
Yeah, there was a Warp Prism at the bottom at the same time sniping a few drones, so Deer definitely able to strike back a little bit. He's going to get even more of those. Yeah. So far on the Walker killing war, he's a little bit ahead. And this is going to translate into him being able to really keep up very well, supply-wise.
Yeah. I'm just a little bit worried. I look at viOLet and I see again layer tech, just huge production of +2 melees, trying these Ling Baneling thing. He's going to have speed here in a second. And with how much intel Deer is getting with this little bit of harassing we were talking about, Todd, which is so good. I mean, getting a few drones is nice, but seeing, again, like things like there's no second gas in there, there's no double Evo chambers. He just knows it's all about this mid-game, and he just has to hold on.
Catches an empty Overlord here at the top. Yeah, viOLet was never allowed here to drone up as much as he wanted to on his bases, so the walker count is actually 66 for Deer and 59 for viOLet. So it really feels like viOLet is... I kind of want to say use the word all in. Not sure if it's right. He's just basically...
You can do it, Todd.
He has to make units and fights.
Yeah.
He gets 9 drones, as I say that, to try and saturate that base very, very late. So Deer, now that he's going to a Templar Archives, he's just going to add a bunch of Archons. And I think if he hits the timing soon, it's going to be almost an unstoppable one.
Adepts again showing up, seeing light saturation here, seeing a few more trickle in. But again, just such good intel by Deer. He says, sorry guys, that's a one-way trip for you. Intel was secured. And the 4th base, I mean, this is kind of what this build that viOLet's doing is meant to do. It's meant to delay this 4th, or at least fight at this 4th. But to your point, Todd, because he's just he's in a pseudo all-in position where he just has to keep churning out units. I don't even know that he is able to threaten that 4th. Like by the time he shows up to it, it's going to be saturated. It's going to be pumping more army into Deer, and it's going to be possibly too late.
By the way, for someone who's going to want to go into a lot of banelings, viOLet's gas income is very low. Because he's kept on losing drones the entire game, he just finally took a 2nd gas in his main. And he doesn't have the one neither in his natural or 3rd base. So his gas income is way lower than he would like it to be. And I'm actually surprised to see an infestation pit here.
Well, I think that's something that we saw almost as a development from yesterday. You have to do something to follow this up. There has to be some kind of progression. Like, you can do that army and have the idea of, I'm going to punish the Protoss if they move out, but what's your follow-up game plan? Because as we saw, if the Protoss are well-informed like we saw yesterday, maybe they just never move out.
Yeah,
and if they never move out and you're just sitting on lings, you just die.
Yes.
Now, one thing I want to kind of talk about that is something that we learned, or at least I learned, it was really cool. Again, going back and giving credit where credit's due, Scarlet was talking about in the live report threads where you do go Spire and you make a few mutas to hunt down that Warp Prism. And Todd, look how annoying that Warp Prism has been. You do need a few of those mutas to clean that up.
Yeah, the Spire started at about the same time as the Hive here, so I think
Broodlords?
He might be aiming for Broodlords here.
But no upgrades, Todd. None. I mean, well, no. Plus 2 melee.
I guess, yeah, Broodlings
plus 2 melee
would be good.
Yeah, so it does kind of look like viOLet is going to try and be like, okay, look, if you're not going to attack, that's fine. I'm going to use this army to threaten you. And then I'm going to move on as well.
It's definitely better than saying I'm just going to attack because you're not attacking and then lose everything.
Sure. I do not disagree with that. We're going to have another drop over here. A couple of Zealots do get cleaned up. The creep of viOLet, not super impressive. That's because he's been just kind of distracted, I would say, this entire time. But he's starting to approach the middle of the map.
viOLet is still not mining as much gas as he should be. Like, Protoss right now is mining way more gas, and that's going to translate into a lot of Archons. Like, you can see the number at the bottom. It's over like 1,200 for Protoss. And just now spiking over 1,000 for the Zerg player who's still missing gases in the natural and in the 3rd base. So 2 in total.
Well, I almost wonder if that's like a problem for another time, Todd, as this huge warp-in happens inside the main. There are the mutas to try and deal with that Warp Prism, but, well, maybe they will get the Warp Prism and that'll be really nice, but there's going to be a couple of Archons getting shoved forward here as well. Meanwhile, a big fight here actually at the, let's call it the 3rd base. Force Field's going down. Ravage going to try to break those Force Fields, but in the time that they do, a lot of Lings have died. Storm is available. They're making their way over here. Big Storm goes down on the center mass of that army. Drones on the right side as well. And Deer is getting a lot of damage. And now, no Warp Prism to reinforce inside the main or this army. Keep that in mind, but I feel like the damage has been done, Todd.
Absolutely. Deer going for one of the best timings that he could here in this game. A couple Banelings tried to counter-attack across the map in the meantime, but were defended very easily and only killed, I think, like 2 probes.
Yeah, not the damage that he needs. And if Deer can evacuate, I mean, look at the core of this army. It's 5 Immortals. That doesn't seem like a super big deal, especially when a player's teching towards Broodlords, but that core is what allows him to be really strong against the other supporting units, Ravagers and Lings. I'm not going to try and oversell this, guys, but you do want to chase down that chunk of gas representation in that army, and was not able to do that, viOLet, because he's just kind of so on the back foot. His economy's not great, and as Todd has pointed out, he doesn't have a lot of gas in his own right, so his army is very Ling-heavy, which like 2 Archons can defend easily.
And this is usually what happens when you fall behind in StarCraft. You often gonna feel like your only option is to attack and try and finish the game with whatever you've got, but another option at times can be, especially if you're doing well tech-wise, is to say, all right, I'm never gonna attack, I'm gonna try whatever, to defend whatever you're throwing at me, and then I'll basically get units strong enough to eventually win a fight, which in this case will be the Broodlords here for viOLet, but I think Deer has no intention of slowing down anytime soon.
And this is going to be a huge pick.
Oh, he might see the Great Aspire actually.
He might, and if he does, he'll kill that too, because right now he gets the spawning pool, he's going after the infestation pit, he does see the hive, so he knows there is some kind of tech coming his way. Probably not Ultralist. Nice little counterattack over there as well. Gets a lot of probes. This is a fantastic counterattack, but the kind of problem is it's viOLet that's like, that's not that disposable of an army. He actually kind of needs it, especially since he just lost the spawning pool.
Yeah, Lynx.
The next warping of Zealots is going to be like too much.
Yeah, if he actually goes forward, would be nice. Lynx get disposed of. Broodlords are now morphing, but it's not that many of them.
No, and they're by themselves. That's the biggest part for me.
But viOLet getting a base across the map here of Deer, that's not bad at all.
Oh gosh, the Queens! Why? They let him right to it. I guess they're going to be able to kite backwards. So those Queens give up the ruse, as it were, and the Broodlords are going to rain down hell and fury on this army. I don't know if the Stalkers have Blink. I think they do, but there's just a couple of them, so they should die pretty easily. But look at the damage they're doing. Yeah, it's GG. viOLet is going to tap out of this one. Deer's going to end up taking it. Just too much attrition, but very strong play by Deer. All game long, we were kind of talking about how viOLet is so aggressive, going to find a way to throw you off, and Deer was just there, deflecting the Baneling drops, stopping the Ling counterattacks, playing the patient game, and getting intel the whole time with his own harass talk.
Yeah, defensive-wise, that's as good as it gets here from Deer. Like, only losing, like, what, one probe for the longest amount of time against a double Baneling drop. I think viOLet, maybe here the mistake was underestimating Deer's defensive capability, and instead of doing 2 Overlords, if he had done 3, that's when it really becomes tricky to defend. If you time them super well, I really feel like at least one of your mineral lines will get wrecked. Yeah. And then that's usually from there that as Zerg player, you're able to drone up, go up to 4 or 5 bases very easily and get enough units to finish things off.
Okay, guys, I believe one of our players is going to need a couple of minutes to get some water and rest. So we're going to throw to a quick commercial break. When we come back, it is going to be that game number 3 to decide who stays and who goes home.
Welcome to BlizzCon! This is one of the coolest things you're ever going to see in your life.
We cannot wait to share with you guys what we have in store.
Welcome to BlizzCon, boys.
For Azeroth! We're exploring a lot of new locations. We invented some brand new characters.
The world could always use more heroes.
We retake our homeworld.
When we first did BlizzCon back in 2005, we had no idea what to expect.
Are we ready to begin the costume contest?
It is amazing to feel part of this thing.
How'd you guys feel about today? You excited?
It's so much more than a game in a box.
We have so much to show you here today.
It's just all fun and games.
Have fun this weekend. Take care of each other.
Have a great BlizzCon!
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you also took advantage of that break. It's been so nice casting for you guys and having some great games. And this one, hopefully, will not disappoint. These 2 guys are in the game, fighting for their lives on King Sejong Station. Top left-hand side, the Red Zerg. From Team Envious, it's viOLet. And his opponent, surging back, showing some fantastic defensive play in game number 2. It is the Blue Protoss, Deer.
And you don't change the winning strategy. He's going to go again for the gateway down the ramp. A very quick scout as well. Doesn't want to get surprised by some Zerglings once more. That would be a terrible way to go out. Lose twice to the same Zergling rush. Like, please, no.
No, and he, you know, one of the things I was going to ask you, Todd. I mean, we talked about how it's like, okay, Deer, you gotta suck it up and rally back in game 2. We saw that for sure. But viOLet, I felt like showed like 19 of his trick cards in that game number 2. He's like, I like Ling Baneling drop, I like Ling aggression.
Yeah.
I will go Broodlords. Like, so much intel from that. Now, of course, guys, it's StarCraft. You can change that up. You can do different things. But I feel like a large hand of viOLet was shown in that game.
Definitely, it's He can play a lot of different styles, but on King Sejong Station, it's kind of hard to do too many different things. Usually, it's either the Link Bane style, or you're gonna play with Roach, Hydra, and Lurker, which we don't really see too much anymore. Like Nurcho is one of the guys that's really mastered that style, but as far as other Zergs go, it's really a lot about those Banelings here right now. So Deer already showed some good things in the previous game. As long as he doesn't die early on, he might be fine.
Okay.
So viOLet might have to do something, I don't know, special, or it has to go right somewhere in there for him. And obviously, the earlier the better, because if you let Deer develop, even if you get like one fight right against him, or even some harassment here and there, I think he's going to be able to recover a lot of the time.
See how that shapes up. viOLet going to open up for a very similar opening that we saw in Frost.
Still mining gas.
Still mining that gas. I like your call. Ooh, well, it's going to be different, Todd. I was just about to talk about speed overlords, but there's a Roach Horn going quite quickly. Now, if you are a fan of viOLet's and you've seen him win some pretty important games, I think one of the images that sticks out in my mind is like 1 or 2 base Roaches showing up against a Stargate Protoss.
Yeah, and it is Stargate here indeed. I liked a lot the build of Dark against Drogo, where he went for Roach drop with Burrow.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
I like everything Dark does, though, to be fair.
You could use anything, literally. Like
you almost could. Now, Todd, you being a former very successful Protoss in the European scene, this is a build we've seen before. You've got a Stargate. Obviously, a lot of it comes down to seeing when these Roaches come out, but what do you want to see from Deer here? How does he hold this?
Extra gateways like now, additional pylons in his wall. A very quick third will be bad, obviously.
Oh my god.
But at least he didn't start the third Nexus before making more gates.
A Void Ray? Are you kidding me, Hiko? That's so weird. Like, a lot of people go Oracle followed by a Void Ray.
He had an Adept across the map, so he must have spotted here.
See? He's not building. Yeah, he's scouting around looking for units. He's not taking a third.
I think he maybe sent the shade into the natural and saw that there was no drones and nothing being made. He's like, okay, well, red alert over here. I'm playing against Cheese King.
This Void Ray, by the way, Todd, to answer the question I was asking you earlier, this is the beginning of it. Adding a Robo behind that. He has double pylons on the wall. He's going to make probably a second Void Ray behind this one. He's got the tools. He's got what it takes.
Yeah, and viOLet's not going to commit by.
Oh, but the probe's going out. Maybe he's thinking, he's second-guessing himself.
He starts a drone behind his supply block right now here. Is viOLet. This is really not going to do much.
You think so? Yeah, no, it's not. There's going to be double photon overcharge. There's like 7 Roaches out there.
The best that he can do to salvage the situation here for viOLet is to slow down that third as much as possible and drone up like a madman here behind this. But even then, like, it's not going to be a crazy lead. Like, if you look at the walker count, 29 drones to 41 probes.
Oh my gosh. And he's going to go forward, and it's just going to be deflected very easily. The fact that he's even spending any time on that ramp is surprising.
This is the least successful rush we've seen this tournament, I think, so far.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, Todd, like my natural instinct is to be like, Todd, no, that's not true. But it's, you know what, Todd? I think you're right.
10 walkers ahead right now for Deer, who's going to most certainly start at third base ASAP behind this. Probably go into a Twilight Council. Yeah, there it is. And then from there, he can just start chasing Overlords out on the map. He's 2 Void Rays, by the way. Like, a little bit surprised. One would have been enough, but I guess better safe than sorry.
Yeah, well, he's playing kind of that math game. He's in the base right now and just not seeing anything. He sees no lair. He does see a decent number of drones, but not anything crazy.
You know, actually, what's crazy? If he flew across the map with 2 Void Rays, he could start killing queens and maybe drones and stuff. With the Mothership Core, maybe even potentially.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Todd. But I think what he's happy with is saying these 2 Void Rays are going to make sure my third goes up without a hitch. He doesn't know if there's like 40 Lings out there or something, because right now he's looking at viOLet and he's just like, well, I'm going to have a third at roughly the same time as you. I'm actually ahead in tech. You did a rush, so I'm probably ahead in Harvesters. I don't need to do anything crazy. He's just going to play normal.
I'm a bit surprised to see Numeratize Carapace here, because viOLet knows that Deer opens Stargate here. Like, there's really not much to scout. I don't think he's going to be playing aggressively by dropping or making a lot of units or even an all-in. So it kind of feels like a wasted investment, but I don't know. Like, maybe he thought he already could get the drones that he needs to get. Anyways, gets 10 Links now.
Oh, he's in trouble, Todd. There's actually a Warp Prism coming up behind this. The Resonating Glaive upgrade should finish in sync with that Warp Prism making its way over here. The Queens, I don't know what you guys think you're doing. They're going to back up. They actually get a little bit of a scout there, which is kind of nice. But there's a little bit of a base of Roaches and quite a good number of Queens, so the beginning of the defense for viOLet is good here. The thing I love about this, Todd, This is not an all-in. Deer doesn't need this attack to work. He just needs it to generate units out from viOLet, and that economic advantage he has back at home is going to grow.
And he's going to do something really smart. Instead of putting all his eggs in the same basket and attacking on that base and reinforcing, he's going to send the Prism towards the main and I think try and basically out-multitask viOLet, force a potential poor split where he could start killing a lot of drones.
A huge number of Lings here. I mean, at this point, the Adepts are actually at risk of dying. But to go to your point, Todd, I really like it. Yeah, I mean, if the Lings do over-commit in the middle of the map, then all of a sudden there's a Warping in the main, and he's got problems there as well. A lot of gateways going down for Deer, as we saw from our observer. And the Void Rays are doing a good job, too, of cleaning up the Overlords. The speed upgrade is going to make it a little bit harder to do that. But as viOLet gets more and more in the dark and is not sure what to do, the options he has to get back in this game becomes scarier. He's like, well, I need a 4th. But what if he's taking a 4th into 12 gateways? Then that's a bad call.
That's interesting that we see a Hydra then, by the way. I was convinced he was just going to play the standard, you know, Link Bane Ravager. But in this case, getting that...
Lurkers, I guess. You know?
Yeah, does he want to actually get Lurkers? Because the gas-wise, viOLet is not in a necessarily great place. Like, he's mining on 6 right now, but as you can see, like, it's not that high just yet, his gas, that he's going to be able to reach a good amount of Lurkers, so...
He's dreaming, man. He's hoping it becomes relevant. But we
that observer across the map.
Let's get ripped off. Void Ray is going to make taking that 4th base a little bit more annoying. Meanwhile, a drop inside the main. A few drones will go down here. Some kind of wow, it's a lot of force fields to kill some Lings.
A lot of drones could go down here if actually he microed that, maybe shaded into the natural, but might just choose to evacuate here with the Prism.
He's going to shade forward, try to get some information.
Actually, that's really bad. Prism did nothing.
Yeah.
Standing there.
He's okay though. He's up 20 supply. He's all right to do that. Like the Void Rays grab and show that there's a bunch of Queens on the right side, and this army's going to move out. Now, funny enough, there's actually not a lot of force field energy here, but if there was like a lot of Banelings or something, I'd talk more about that. There's just simply not. viOLet doesn't have much here. The Warp Prism does get picked off, which is a good one, and this army will get cleaned up inside the main, but while that's happening, on the right side of the map, you're going to lose a 4th.
There is at least 6 or 7 force fields against 0 Ravagers.
Yeah,
so
or Banelings or anything.
It's going to be like Heart of the Swarm here for a minute. Up until viOLet finally adds some of these Ravagers.
And I like this from Deer. Probably going to back up. Don't want to overcommit. Fighting on that creep could get dangerous. This army is very expensive, by the way. If Deer were to lose this, I don't care about the harass in the main. I don't care about the 4th. He'd be in a bad spot. So he's going to try to make his way back home.
He's in a great position right now. Deer identified that he was full ground he's facing. Double Disruptor production is on the way. That's going to be cancelled, but I don't think it's that important. Like, obviously, it's nice for viOLet to achieve that, but it's not, like, decisive, I think.
It's not the end of the world for Deer at all. Getting this Immortal is nice, but, you know, viOLet's doing these little things that are quite nice. He does cancel the 4th. No, actually, I think he lost the 4th.
Saves it.
Not bad.
Oh, morphing some Banelings in a corner here, but that was...
Yeah, but it's spotted.
It's Deer's Eagle Eye, man. He's never going to miss that.
The Eye of Sauron, man. He sees everything. Nowhere to go for the Lings.
He doesn't even wear glasses anymore. He literally sees all.
Yeah, no need to. All right, so it is going to be that Lurker Den, by the way, but there's going to be a scary period of time here where, as Todd pointed out, I don't think there's Ravagers. So dealing with force field is going to be a bit of a problem. We do see Baneling speed, but only just now being queued up. A lot of Hydras, that's okay. But against this Protoss army, tough. Unless Deer can overextend. That's kind of the key moment here. I just don't think he will. He's been playing so patient.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to kind of sit up there, force field if he needs to. We see a lot of Banelings kind of in panic being morphed now.
Disruptors, by the way.
Which is going to be even less gas for the Lurkers. And even if Lurkers are rich, there are so many Disruptors that for viOLet to get a very good engagement against this many force fields plus Disruptors, it's going to be very hard. So I think he's getting desperate. He's realizing everything I just mentioned.
Yeah.
And for a second, I think he was going to counterattack. But now he sees that this army is kind of trapped out on the map and there is no recall available. So he's going to try to go for a flank and get rid of all of these. That could really bring him back in the game.
He'd have to get a huge win here, though, and backing up and launching forward those disruptor shots. Doing a good shot there, but with that flank, he's starting to kind of get inside the Protoss here. Disruptors getting exposed. Only one shot so far, by the way, being very patient with these shots. And look at that, Todd. All of a sudden, the Protoss army is getting cleaned up. A lot of Hydras did die, though.
Yeah.
So this is a good moment for viOLet, but my concern is it too late? Like Hydra stepping forward here, even loses all the Queens behind that, and maybe, no, he will be able to kill these, but losing the 4th, losing most of his army, I feel like the damage is just too good for Deer here.
Yeah, there was definitely a good trade for Deer, who's now going to be on 4 bases against just the 3 of Deer. And behind this, the production continues here out of these robos. It's Immortals now that he's going into. Finally, viOLet's going to be able to go into Lurkers, but income-wise, there's going to be a pretty big difference as soon as that fourth base gets properly saturated, which is right about now here for Deer.
Oh, man. And that's already the remake. For our Protoss player, Deer, he's just put himself in a really good spot. He does lose his whole army, which for a Protoss is typically almost the end of the world, even if you kill a base. But because he also killed the entire army of viOLet, and because viOLet has already just been kind of forcing units out there at a time when maybe his economy is what he would rather focus on, it is just so bad. But now, Lurkers are sitting there. There is an Observer, though, and they're kind of clumped up. But Disruptive Shot goes forward. It's going to hit all three and reduce them to ash. They're going to pull up and try to relocate, but these Stalkers can almost hunt them down. And you know what? I love it. Deer's just like, nope, not going to take any risks. We're going to slowly push this out here.
Yeah, and behind this, he's getting Blink
he doesn't have
+3.
Blink, okay.
He's getting a Dark Shrine, so this
and he's
is
going
just,
up the fourth base again.
This is just looking incredible.
Yeah.
For Deer right now. I don't know what viOLet has to do here. Yeah, maybe he needs to get across the map, burrow Lurkers in the right place, and hope that Deer goes full derp mode, because I don't think anything else will save viOLet here.
Yeah, I mean, Todd, we reached that point in the time in the game where it's like, I hate to be anticlimactic, but Deer is playing a style that's just choking. It's just, hey, you know, I could probably A-move and win and fight with you and win, but I know what I actually can do is just never let you take a fourth. And every time viOLet overextends or something like that, Deer's there to punish. He is going to try to push down this ramp. This is a tough spot to go down. There are a lot of Lurkers. And he says, yep, it's just a little bit too much. I'm going to take my army and back it up. We've seen viOLet try to take that middle base. Not today. viOLet is reasserting on the right side. I would be surprised if Deer made his way over there, but actually he's going into those Lurkers again.
And he's just going to move down and engage into those Lurkers here. Those are the last few here of viOLet, who's he's running out of time here in this game. It feels like Deer has had enough. He wants to move on to the decider match, and it looks like he might be able to.
Yeah, Deer has found his way here, guys. He plays a rock-solid style of PvZ. He got fooled in game number 1, but he's not going to let it happen. GG is called. viOLet out. Not a bad showing, giving a good fight to Deer, but Deer able to play that rock-solid style of PvZ and just not allow for mistakes. I thought it was a very strong performance from him.
Yeah, just made sure he didn't get cheesed here, and played a very solid style, to be honest. Scouted well enough as well. Like, your build can be as solid as you want to. If you miss a rush like this coming your way, you're gonna lose right out. But now, no, he was on the map with the one adept, saw the roaches being made and coming his way, got double Void Ray, said, you're not gonna kill anything, and then from there, just a solid victory all around.
I agree, Todd. It's the little things. Like you said, that adept scout, how big of a deal was that? Like, that timing attack against a Stargate, if it's like an Oracle or a Phoenix or something like that, and if Lings are coming behind those roaches, that could actually be the end of the world for Deer, and all of a sudden it's viOLet that advances. But really good scouting, meticulous, solid play, and Deer is the guy that is going to move on and fight another day. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us here at the desk. We're going to cut to a break, and when we come back, we're going to have an awesome interview with Deer.
Welcome to BlizzCon!
This is one of the coolest things you're ever going to see in your life.
We cannot wait to share with you guys what we have in store.
Welcome to BlizzCon, boys.
For Azeroth! We're exploring a lot of new locations. We invented some brand new characters.
The world could always use more heroes.
We retake our homeworld.
When we first did BlizzCon back in 2005, we had no idea what to expect.
Are we ready to begin the costume contest?
It is amazing to feel part of this thing.
How'd you guys feel about today? You excited?
It's so much more than a game in a box.
We have so much to show you here today.
It's just all fun and games.
Have fun this weekend. Take care of each other.
Have a great BlizzCon!
And the elimination match that just happened between Deer and viOLet. Deer does reign supreme and keep his chances on moving on to the quarterfinals alive. So first of all, congratulations, Deer. That must be a huge sigh of relief. Before we talk about your series against viOLet, I do want to ask, you lost earlier against Showtime 2-0, and I'm just wondering, what were your thoughts after that series, as I'm sure you must have been surprised with the result. 일단 이 김동완 선수와의 경기 얘기하기 전에 아까 전에 쇼타임 선수와 만났을 때 2대0으로 졌잖아요. 그래서 졌을 때 그 좀 당황을 했는지.
원래는 제가 그렇게 쉽게 질 거라는 생각을 안 했는데 그냥 제 스스로 좀 못해가지고 그게 좀 아쉽고, 근데 쇼타임 선수가 확실히 잘 하더라고요. 그래서 만약에 최종전에서 만난다면 더 열심히 해야 될 것 같아요.
So he says, definitely I was not happy about my performance in that series at all. I do want to give credit to Showtime. He played very, very well. But definitely I did not expect that I would lose like that. Was not happy about my performance there. But I do feel and hope that if I play him in the decider match, that I will be able to show a much better performance there. And just speaking to that, then are you just automatically assuming that it will be Showtime that you face later on and not Byun? 그러면 그 다음 질문은 방금 최종전에서 그럼 쇼타임 선수를 만날 거라고 예상을 조금 한다고 했잖아요. 그러면 당연히 변현우 선수가 이길 거라고 생각하세요?
네, 그 변현우 선수가 저도 이겼거든요. 그 GSL에서. 그래서 굉장히 잘하기 때문에 변현우 선수가 무난하게 1위 진출할 것 같아요.
So he says, yeah, I'm going to be honest. He's someone that has even beaten me before. I've played against him. I know how good he is. I definitely think he will be moving on in first place in this group. And speaking of this group, you just beat viOLet in this elimination match. So let's just jump right into talking about that. You lost the first game. When you're in that situation, when you're one game away from being eliminated out of the WCS Global Finals, what is going on in your head? 일단 이게 김동완 선수의 경기에서 첫 경기 졌잖아요. 그래서 그 순간에 그래도 한 경기만 더 지면 이제 탈락인데 그 순간에 무슨 생각이 드셨나요?
근데 일단 그 경기는 빌드에서 졌기 때문에 그렇게 크게 그 연하지 않고 그 이후에 그 병구 형이 오셔서 그냥 다음 판은 그냥 너 실력대로 해라 그래가지고 좀 편안하게 했던 것 같아요, 오히려.
So he says, because that first game I lost was pretty much just a straightforward build order loss, I didn't try to think too much about it. And after that loss, Stork actually came to me and he gave me advice. And he basically just said, hey, just play to your strengths, play that you normally do, and just show your skills. And that's why I think I was able to play comfortably moving forward. Now, last but not least, we just talked about Byun and Showtime. You just said earlier that you feel like if you play against Showtime, you feel like you'll be able to show a better performance. Can you speak to a little bit more about how your impression on Showtime when you played him? Did he play better than you thought that he would? 일단 이제 아까 전에 변 선수 아니면 쇼타임 선수 중에서 쇼타임 선수 만날 거라고 얘기했잖아요. 근데 이제 쇼타임 선수랑 이제 한번 만났으니까 거기에 대해서 좀 더 얘기해 주세요. 쇼타임 선수가 얼마나 잘하는 것 같은지.
일단 제가 한번 졌기 때문에, 근데 만약에 최종전에서 만나서 또 지면은 진짜 굉장히 자존심 상할 것 같아요. 한국 선수로서. 그래서 만약에 진짜 만나게 된다면은 제 모든 필살기를 꺼내서라도 이기도록 하겠습니다.
So he says, if I do play Showtime in that final match, it would be so embarrassing as a Korean player if I were to lose to him twice. That's just absolutely unacceptable. So I'm definitely going to be taking out everything that I have in me if I do face him again to defeat him. So that's going to be my desire. So congratulations again on holding on to your 10-minute lifeline. We will see what happens later on in his group. But of course, before we get started to our last match of the day, let's head back to Apollo and the boys at the couch.
Thank you very much, Smix. Our third Zerg in a row is eliminated from the tournament. Kev, initial thoughts on that match?
Just that viOLet looked a lot better. In game number 1, I was not super surprised when I saw it was New Gettysburg, because I actually ran into viOLet a couple of times. He did the same against me, and it's nice to see that I'm not the only Protoss that loses 15 workers. I'm not sure, like, he scouted late, which I think is risky when you go up against viOLet, especially in game number 1 in this series. He obviously adjusted and fixed that immediately in game 2 and 3. And I feel like if you pull workers, you better be damn sure that you pull enough that you can actually fight, or at least like run away and then fight. right? But he pulled like a decent amount, and then viOLet ran around. He's like, I can actually fight this amount of probes. So, you know, way too many probes went down, and no matter how good you are, you just cannot turn that around anymore. He did his best, but viOLet finished him off. And I think in one thing I was kind of a little bit sad that viOLet revealed Bane drops already. Obviously, it's not something we've never seen before. It's popular, but I don't think he needed it to win this game. I think he could have won New Gettysburg in many different ways. And if he wanted to do like the multiple Bane drops at once, I think he should have saved that for Frost, because Deer handled it magnificently on Frost. But if it would have came as a surprise, maybe it would have done more.
Yeah, like even Frost, I felt like he could have put himself in maybe a little bit better position if he had caught that Immortal Army before it jumped up, you know, met up with everything else. But Deer was definitely more on top of his game here, you know, when those Baneling drops are coming in, as you said. Like, he really didn't get the connections that he was looking for.
That's so sick. There were 2 drops at once. He lost 0 workers. Like, how do you do that, guys? It's not normal.
Yeah, and then D, as you can see on screen, was able to crawl it back to be able to turn this series around to make sure that he could move through to at least another chance in this tournament, the elimination games, which will be on Sunday, all of them back-to-back there. But viOLet at least put up a fight. We talked about, you know, that he wouldn't, or hopefully wouldn't, just get pushed to the side, and he did do okay, but sadly not enough to be able to take it, especially in this 3rd game.
Yeah, I mean, at least he put up a good fight during all of this. By the way, that game was kind of interesting with the Void Rays to open up.
Yeah,
like, this
that was sick.
Yeah, he was doing some really safe stuff at this point, and definitely worked out well for him. Good maneuvering around by Deer, but you know, I'm happy for viOLet that he was able to actually put up a nice series here against Deer, someone who has so many top 4s and whatnot.
This was a moment in the game where I thought things were changing around. Obviously, the economy, you got to think from the bigger picture here, but this was a little bit scary for Deer.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was overextending over here or not, and I still kind of think he did, but at the same time, he had 4 bases. viOLet only had 3, and he already had an answer for the units of viOLet, so it looked scary. And I think that even Deer, for a split second, because sometimes as Protoss play, especially when games go like that, you're not exactly sure how big that wave of reinforcements is. And if 12 Hydras and a couple of Lings would have showed up at that 4th base, and you make one bad warping, you're like, oh my god, am I actually throwing this? But I think with like every passing, you know, I wouldn't even say minute, but 30 seconds, Deer started to feel a lot more comfortable. And even if he got scared for a split second, I think as soon as that game went 2 minutes past, he's like, okay, now I've got this.
And in the winner's interview, I want to pull up an answer from Deer as well. He said if he was to play Showtime again, losing would be completely unacceptable. As a Korean player playing against a European, losing twice in a row is just, it's a no-go.
That's a funny thing to say, and I understand the sentiment because they've been on top for so long. But when you look at how well Showtime played in that, you can't just say it's unacceptable. Like, it is acceptable because Showtime is playing PvP as well or better than you. So if you can't accept that, then you got to get with reality.
Trying to prophesize the old pattern that we talked about this a little bit earlier in the tournament, how that used to be how it was when someone would beat a Korean in a group like this. Is, oh, he took the first match, like Major was famous for this in WCS America against guys like Tasia. He like win the first match, we're like, oh my god, he's so good. Then they rematch and he's the one that ends up getting wrecked there. So in the rematch, or dumpstered as they say sometimes. But I think we're seeing a different storyline in this tournament when it comes to that. No dumpstering involved.
But good for Deer, obviously moves forward into the elimination game. We do have one more match that's just around the corner for you. This one's going to be a cracker, as they say. It's going to be Nurcho versus Solar. That's happening after this short break. Do remember to join us on social media. It is hashtag WCS 2016. And do also take a little bit of time to check out the YouTube channel, /StarCraft. There's a lot of good content on there from the tournament, outside the tournament, and of course the WCS Signature Series is on there. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. They're worth a watch. We'll be right back with the last game of the day.